Hindsight is always 2020. What do I mean by that? Looking back on your failed relationship, you can probably pinpoint the moment when things ended. It was a phone call or a knockdown, drag-out fight in the living room, or a text message that ended it all. But that isn't the reason the relationship ended. Even relationships that end because of the first instance of physical abuse almost always have underlying problems that led up to the end of the relationship. Figuring out what went wrong in the relationship is the first step in starting to fix things. This is going to be one of the more difficult videos for you to watch because it forces you to objectively look at the relationship that you're still emotionally hurting over. You may need to employ a friend or family member who knows you and your ex well to help you with this phase of the process. If you have a hard time figuring out what went wrong, ask for her second opinion. Most relationships end for one of a handful of reasons. Either one of you cheated, you were fighting about something, and the divorce papers actually call this irreconcilable differences. One or both of you have emotional issues from your past that affected your relationship. The spark just seemed to die out for one or both of you. Or there were unhealthy circumstances like physical or emotional abuse. I'm sure there's other reasons that relationships end, but for the majority of us, it will fall under one of these categories. As you watch the rest of this video, consider getting a notebook and a pen. Take notes about your thoughts as you watch this. Try not to edit your thoughts too much before putting them down on paper. You may be surprised at what you discover. So the first thing we're going to talk about is cheating. And unfortunately, cheating is a very common reason that relationships end. The hurt and betrayal are often too much for someone to take. Cheating is rarely ever the only problem in the relationship, though. You don't cheat on someone that you have a healthy, meaningful relationship with unless there are extenuating circumstances, like sexual abuse in your past. More often than not, cheaters feel neglected or unwanted by the person they are with. They find someone who makes them feel the way that they felt when they first met their significant other, and things spiral out of control from there. The problem with this euphoria is that it is how every relationship starts, before you really know each other well enough to see the good and the bad in the other person. So whether you did the cheating or you were cheated on, look at the things that led up to the cheating. Work, kids, stress, and lack of time together are some of the major things that drive the wedge in to begin with. It might not even be a bad thing that drove you apart to start. Maybe one of you worked too much trying to provide for both of you. Look at the cause of the cheating, but try not to lay blame. Finding the cause will help you know what to work harder on in the future. Okay, so let's talk about fighting now. This section alone could be a video course of its own. Fighting is very broad for a reason. Everyone fights about something different. Maybe it was a pet peeve or a difference of opinion. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that you are trying to get this person back. Fighting is very passionate and can lead to saying and doing things that you would never do otherwise. Think about whatever you are fighting about constantly. You may need to make a list and keep track. You shouldn't be surprised to see the list cover just a few themes, though. Now consider whether those things are worth losing the relationship over. They may be, but more likely, they are things that, with a calmer temper, you see as foolish. Learning to change the way that you fight and the way you view another person while fighting will help you improve the relationship. Okay, so let's talk a bit about past issues now. Relationships are a molding together of lives, and that includes pasts. We all have one, and we all have pain that we have to overcome. If you have issues from your childhood or past relationships that have affected your trust and ability to have a healthy relationship, identifying them is the first step to taking back control of your life. To figure out what is holding you back, if it isn't obvious, try what writers call free writing. Just start writing about yourself, not the failed relationship, concentrating on feelings and times in your life that defined who you are. Don't stop to think about what you're writing. Just let the words and emotions flow onto the paper. After you have found the problem, or if this exercise didn't reveal the issues, you may want to consider seeing a professional to help you work through those problems. Often our problems seem so shameful or so big that we don't want to share them. But if your lost love is worth getting back, then you will do what you have to do to heal yourself. Another reason relationships end is because the spark just died. There's not much to say about this one. I'll assume that you aren't the one the spark died for, or you wouldn't be interested in rekindling the relationship. Even if the other person lost interest somewhere along the way, there are ways to get the relationship back on track, and better than ever. Later on in this video series, I will reveal what those methods are. Another reason relationships end is because of unhealthy circumstances. Abusive, unhealthy relationships are usually the hardest to get out of. And even when you do get out of them, you find yourself wanting to or feeling obligated to go back. Be completely honest with yourself here. If you had an unhealthy relationship involving any kind of abuse, you don't need to be trying to win back that person. No matter how much you love them, you need to realize how lucky you are to be free from those circumstances and start to move on. If your relationship failure doesn't fall into any of these categories, make a list of the things that went wrong or events that led to the end. Figuring out what went wrong is the first step. Once you know what went wrong, you can start to move forward. Unless you had a relationship that was unhealthy, continue watching these videos to find out what you can do with what you have learned in this video to win back your lost love.